Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day, and above all else, that you're indeed looking after yourselves and one another. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Going well, Armando. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are starting a brand new limited series called Attack of the Killer B-Sides. And I couldn't think of a better person to start off the limited series with other than Mr. Ken Cheshire. Now, the premise of Attack of the Killer B-Sides, we are going to be looking at various albums um, that, in my opinion, have perfect, if not killer, B-sides from track one to track seven, or however long the sides are. That is not to say that the A sides of these albums are less or inferior or less spectacular. We are just looking at the B sides of these albums, and I've picked seven albums to cover in this limited series. But for this first episode, this premiere episode of Attack of the Killer B-Sides, Ken and I are going to be looking at The Who with Who's Next. Now, just to give you a bit of a background on this album has a long, complicated, rich history. Now, performing on the album of Who's Next, first of all, it is the band's fifth release, released on August 2nd, 1971, through MCA Records in the US and North America, basically, and Track Records in the UK, and various labels around the world. The album was recorded from April to June of 1971, produced by The Who, Glenn Johns, and Kit Lambert, featuring the classic lineup of The Who. Keith Moon on drums, John Entwistle on bass and backing vocals, lead vocals on one track, Roger Daltrey on lead vocals and various instruments, and the one and only Mr. Pete Townsend on guitars, various instruments, and lead occasional lead vocals. Sorry. Now, as I said, Who's Next has a long, complicated history. Okay, it
Yeah.
started out as a project called Lifehouse, which Pete Townsend was hoping that it would be a multimedia event. Now, whatever that meant at the time, only Pete Townsend knew. And even when he began to try to describe it to people, he couldn't even describe what it was about. Originally, he wanted to uh, do a tour with the band where they would, do these concerts, and he would have people just shout out songs that they wanted the band to perform, and they basically a concert by request, as it were. Basically, this idea got shelved, and he took nine songs from these sessions and finished them up, and eventually, Who's Next was released. Now, we need to mention that these various recordings from these sessions are available on the mammoth, and I do mean mammoth, 10 disc box set called Who's Next slash Lifehouse that you can get for a bargain basement price of around $400 if you can afford it. Now, as I said, we are strictly looking at the B side of this album, and we're going to be discussing why we feel it is a killer B side. So, without further ado, again, I was brought up right by my mama, and I will let Ken Cheshire go first in his opinion and his history with this album. Ken?
Thank you, Armando. Um, Another idea as far as focusing on B-sides. There's a lot of fantastic albums that usually when one puts the album on to listen to, they start on the A side. Um, and a lot of times, back in the vinyl days, the other side, the B side, um, doesn't quite get the as much play. And which is really a shame for a lot of albums. But anyway, so that's why I really like this idea. But anyway, The Who. Who's next? 1971. I was in junior high school at the time. It was the dawn of AOR FM radio, and right at that time, I grew up right outside of Tallahassee, Florida. There was a brand new radio station, AOR radio station, started up in Tallahassee, and um, they really, like a lot of radio stations back then that relied on physical media, um, they didn't start off with a large collection of albums. Um, you don't just start off with 1,000 albums and stuff. But
Exactly.
anyway, and what they would do, like a lot of AOR, at either 11 p.m. or midnight, they would just play an entire album. And so this was my introduction. Just I'd stretch out a pallet in the living room in front of the big monstrosity stereo cabinet and
Hmm.
listen to entire albums like this. And this is the one that struck me. This is the one that introduced me to both The Who and this album, and really harder rock in general. Up until then, the hardest thing I really listened to was probably Three Dog Night, which is not too short. Three Dog Night. They were an
Okay.
excellent
Yeah.
band. But anyway, and that's what got me into it. Um, I went from Who's Next into buying all the albums before then, and to this day, they're one of my top favorite bands of all time for me. Um, and the side B is it's a perfect side. Side A is almost perfect for me, but side B especially. The two big hits off this album, the biggest hits, were Baba O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again. And I feel that there's a general consensus that a lot of people prefer Baba O'Reilly over Won't Get Fooled Again, but not me. Um, and it's a perfect album closer. So with side two,
May,
after
may I
five tracks, yeah, go ahead.
may I interject one thing
Yeah,
just to ask you a
please.
question? You said that side one is almost perfect for you.
Yeah.
What is that one, and again, not to take away from side A, but what is that one track that just kind of brings in kind of short for you on side A?
I love John Entwistle, but My Wife is a great song, but for me, it doesn't fit in with the overall musical aesthetic of the entire album.
Okay, I
Um,
get it.
Now, since then, with all of the remixing and remastering, especially if I listen to that song on headphones, where I hear things in there I've never heard before, I really do like the song itself, but in the context of the entire album,
Yeah.
it kind of takes me out of it a bit. So, and it wasn't, and it's one of the songs that wasn't originally intended for the Lifehouse project.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so after five killer songs off side one, they open up side two with Getting in Tune, um, which is definitely from the Lifehouse project. It's a great side opener. It starts off with the wonderful Nicky Hopkins on piano, um, just vocals and piano intro. Um, this song has close ties with another song from that Lifehouse project called Pure and Easy.
Hmm.
The whole idea of Lifehouse, what music was Pete's idea that music was supposed to be the force that spiritually unifies humanity. And as and the central song on that whole thing is Pure and Easy. It starts off with the lyrics, "There once was a note, pure and easy. playing so free like the wind whippling by. In other words, that was the focal point, and that's talking about. So he's talking about getting in tune, getting aligned with that one note, getting aligned with humanity, of self-realization. Um, Pretty deep topic, but
Yeah,
musically, just a cracking song.
yeah.
The Roger Daltrey's vocals. I
Hmm.
mean, everybody on this album, all four members of the band, are cranking it up to 11 artistically, and it's just absolutely amazing. And so, a song that's really quite simple ends up being really quite powerful.
Hmm.
And like I said, it's a central theme. Even if you're not familiar with Lifehouse and just listening to it as an album, it still holds some significance. I think it's wonderful. And there again, the great Nicky Hopkins on piano just adds so much to it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I think that to me, I mean, we'll talk about the tracks overall, but
Sure.
like to me, getting in tune. See, I look at this album overall as talking to the central figure in this album. To
Mhm.
me, there's a bit of a loose thematic premise going on through this album. Um, and to me, the, it's talking to the disenfranchised youth.
Okay.
And getting in tune is just, in my notes, I have a beautiful piano, really subtle bass on the intro.
Yes.
And it's a theme, it has a theme of trying to fit in. Just sort of an individual who has been through hell on some level. And whether it's with their parents or whether it's with society, trying to find a job, trying to find themselves, trying to answer the questions that are going through their mind and trying to sort of find out where they can fit in
Good point.
overall, right? Which, you know, ties in with the title of Getting in Tune, just trying to
Mhm.
figure themselves out and how they go forward. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? In life,
absolutely.
in life. I think it's a fantastic way to start off side two or side B.
Yeah, and by this point, the Who um, really had established um, an attitude of the outcast, adolescence, and
Yeah.
trying to fit in.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I hope I die before I get old. Um, you know, I'm a boy. Just all of those songs where it's basically someone that's outcast or alienated and just not fitting in. And so, yeah, that's a good way to look at this.
Yeah.
Um,
And by the way, getting old at that point, back in 71, to most people, was when you turned 30.
that's right.
All right. We're way past
Yeah,
that.
you're way
You
past
hear
that.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We're
Um,
way past that.
I hear. I don't remember 30 very well, but
I do. It
I've
was a
got two
wonderful
30s.
day. It was a wonderful day for me. But no, that's getting
And
into,
I tell you,
yeah, getting in tune, I think, again, just is a good way to start out side B on the
I
album.
think it is. And there again, this really does um, ring into the whole Lifehouse, project.
Ethos. Yeah.
So then we go into Going Mobile, which is uh, it's a real upbeat track talking about celebrating freedom on the surface, talking about life on the road. It starts off with some great acoustic guitar work.
Yeah.
Um,
Great melody. Yeah.
Townsend's, yeah. I just love as good as his electric guitar playing. He brings the same aesthetic and energy to his acoustic playing, which
Yeah.
was a real big influence on me in my early days as a musician. Um, and like a lot of songs in this album, he really introduced a lot of synthesizers. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and in this one, he uses it, but he doesn't just dive in and just bathe the whole album or bathe the songs in synthesizers. He uses it very subtly and very melodically,
Hmm.
um, and just really it it elevates it rather than replace it. Um, you know, incredible, great lead vocals by Townsend.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he's in top
he
form.
just really delivers it. And then, and then on the electric guitar work on this, he uses what I believe are what's known as envelope filters on the electric guitar.
Okay.
Sounds like a wah wah pedal, kind of like that.
Okay.
And man, like I said, he really takes it to the limit on that. Just really cuts loose, and there again, he dials it up to 11,
Hmm.
and uh, just a dancing track. It's just really a cracking song.
Hmm. Yeah. Keep going. I'll give you my
Okay,
opinion at the end.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, Behind Blue Eyes, this is the song has been covered a lot by other artists and bands. This is another Lifehouse track. This song is from the viewpoint of the antagonist of the project, of the Lifehouse project.
Hmm.
It's very introspective, um, talking about alienation, frustration, and even anger and rage.
In isolation.
Yeah, isolation, sure. It is a momentary, what I refer as a momentary state of being. In other words, way back in the old days of early opera, there would be an opera, and at some point, everything would just freeze,
Yeah.
and the character would step forward on stage and sing a song. And in that song, they're just stating, what they're feeling, and all of that. And then when the song's over, then everybody unfreezes it and goes on with the story. That's kind of
Exactly.
what this
Yeah.
it opens with incredible acoustic guitar. Uh, the whole song has incredible full harmonies, and it strikes me almost like a background choir in the way that they use these harmonies.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, it opens into just a real full rocker after the second verse, and the fact that it goes along that far, as a ballad type song and then hits it. Because usually songs in rock, if it starts off quiet, usually after the first verse or the first chorus, then it cranks up. This
Hmm.
stretches us out for two verses. Um, so on first listen, it kind of takes you a little bit by surprise. Um, and then it gets into the bridge where the character is begging for help, uh, to restrain him and to keep him from striking out, especially lines like, if my fist clenches, crack it open before I use it and lose control.
Yeah.
Uh,
Stop me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't let
Contain
me
me.
cross. You cannot trust his own emotions in
Contain me.
those situations. Yeah, exactly. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
I
emotional.
know there have been times in my life when I've kind of felt that way. Can I keep from striking out? So frustrated.
Yeah. Oh, believe me.
Yeah, and then it returns back to the beginning. With the acoustic, um, and no one knows what it likes to be the bad man behind blue eyes.
To be the
So
sad
there
man.
is no emotional resolution. It's a state of being. It's introducing this character, honestly, for for who he is within a larger story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a viewpoint reflecting feelings and self-reflection that I think so many of us can relate to
Mm-hmm.
at any given point in our lives. And again, especially young people who
Mm-hmm.
feel powerless in their lives and what's going on around them, that feel alienated and isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah. And then to follow that up by "Won't Get Fooled Again." This takes it that possible viewpoint of adolescence from Behind Blue Eyes and Getting in Tune um, into your eyes being opened as an adult. It is rebellious. It is cautionary. The um, the lyrics are political and philosophical
Yeah.
statements on revolution and especially disillusionment. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I demand, um, I demand reform.
Yeah.
And then you get what you want. You get the leader that's going to fight, and then realize that it's just the same thing. His
Mm-hmm.
hair is just parted on the left instead of the right.
Yeah.
Um, and nothing really changes. And oh my gosh, in 2025, we look at our politicians. Guess what? Back in 71, it was happening back then, and it's
Oh,
still happening now.
yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, on this album, um, all four members are just, their performances are just dialed up to 11. Townsend uses the ARP synthesizer to great effect throughout, uh, without, like I said, just drenching it in synthesizers like what would happen in the 80s with other bands. And no one can deny that iconic Roger Daltrey scream at the end of "Won't Get Fooled Again."
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely iconic. And to me, um, if you're not familiar with The Who, I recommend watching the documentary "The Kids Are All Right." You will get a good sense of the of each of the band members, of who they were, their sense of humor, their songs,
Mm-hmm.
through their greatest songs throughout their entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very and they also you also get two live performances of Baba O'Reilly and "Won't Get Fooled Again." That was Keith Moon's last performance with The Who, and they are absolutely on fire.
Okay.
And it makes and if you know that it's Keith's last, performance, it can bring a tear to the eye.
It's bittersweet.
It's very bittersweet because he was only what, like 32
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
and he looks out of shape. He looks like he might be struggling a little bit, but he still brings his A game, and the drumming is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that documentary is great for just an overall view of who the Who were, um, at their pinnacle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the
Okay.
timing of that documentary couldn't have been timed better. So, but anyway,
Okay.
fantastic album, wonderful songs. Um, if you get an inheritance or sell your house, if you love this song, get that 10-pound box set, because it's got all there were many other songs recorded,
Yeah.
that you can find uh, on various compilations and stuff. And yeah, and the other songs, some of them released as singles and never on an album proper, are just as good as these.
Yeah.
And so, just a very influential album in my life.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. So you would say that this is a killer B-side.
I think it is a very killer B-side.
Okay.
Give me an EpiPen.
There we go. There we go. There we go. My view of this album and um, of this side, again, as I said at the top of the show, it's to me, the songs have a very loosely based theme that run throughout it of disenfranchised youth. One youth in particular, okay, who will remain nameless because we really don't know the name of this youth. Uh, in the context of the story, again, starting off with getting in tune. Um, Beautiful again, as I said before, beautiful piano, very subtle bass on the intro. And again, it's has this theme of trying to fit in, of this youth trying to figure out what in the hell is he supposed to do with himself in this life. What is his purpose for being here? And it's a universal theme that is very prevalent today, actually. It's never really gone away. But going through this side of the album, with going mobile, he realizes that, you know what? I'll figure it out when it's my time to figure it out. It doesn't have to happen right away, and he's
Yeah.
free to do whatever the hell he wants to do with his life. Okay, he's going to get burned along the way, but as long as he understands that that's going to happen occasionally, he's going to be okay. It's going to be
Yeah.
all right. Behind Blue Eyes, 3 minutes and 42 seconds. But man, what an impactful
Yep.
3:42. I mean,
Yeah.
my God. Um, he's come to a point in his life where he feels again that he's jaded or that he feels isolated or disenfranchised. Something has happened to him in his life at this point that he's had enough.
Hmm.
You know, but then with the lyric, but my dreams, they aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be.
Yeah.
My love is vengeance. Lyrics like that. He realizes that he has to be strong in his resolve, but he doesn't have to be vindictive in his resolve. Like he doesn't have to lash out, but he's saying, I
Right.
need help. I'm weak.
Right.
I'm a human
Right.
being. I need help. Uh, you know, if you see that I'm going to be acting out, help me to curve that, to keep me from
Hmm.
doing that. Because up to this point, I can't trust anybody that's been telling me their version of the truth. I want the truth.
Hmm.
Give
Yeah.
me the truth or where is my version of the truth?
Yeah. That's true.
Okay. Is it ever resolved? That's open ended. It's open ended. A beautiful song, beautiful medley. I keep saying medley. Melody, beautiful melody, superbly constructed and arranged. Then it gets into the mammoth won't get fooled again. Okay. Now, with this song being the end of the album, he's come out the other side of his own personal war. Has he learned anything? He doesn't know, but he learns what to look for and what not to accept from people, from government, from a higher power. He's learned to rely on himself
Right.
overall. And that's all that we can really do in life, right?
Yeah.
And again, the story is open-ended because we know life is always about learning things and ever evolving and changing. That's what Won't Get Filmed Again to me is about.
That's right.
So for me, this is a killer B-side because the songs are sequenced in such a way that you're going through a journey. And you know me about albums taking you on a journey. This album side takes you on a journey.
Yeah.
You come through the storm at the end of it not knowing all the answers, but but you are better off because you know that in the end, one can only rely on themselves, which makes you stronger, self-reliant, self-sufficient, and you move on, you go on,
Yeah,
you know.
you did make it through.
Exactly. Exactly.
And sometimes
Change.
that's,
You're a
yeah,
changed person,
yeah,
but that's what life is about,
that's right.
right? Now, for me,
Sometimes just making it through is enough, and that's
yeah.
okay.
Now, what makes this a killer B-side, again, is the sequence of the tracks because it does tell it is an arc, right? You go through different
Yeah,
emotions,
yeah,
and just the songs themselves are just killer songs. Great, great melody, great arrangement.
that's right.
They all have that hook in them, and sequenced together this way, it's perfect. It is perfect to me.
Yeah,
Now,
perfect.
in terms of side A, it's a great side. What would make it even better is if they had included the studio version of Heaven and Hell from John Entwistle.
True.
Either
True.
included that or maybe replace that with, instead of My Wife, maybe put in Heaven and Hell there. Who knows?
Yep.
Maybe start the album off with that. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's not to say that side A is not great, but again, focusing on the B side, that's what, to
Yeah.
me, the reasons I just stated are what make it a killer B side for an album. So,
Well said.
yeah. And it wasn't until, I'll tell you quickly, it wasn't until I was listening to this album the other day to talk about it that I thought, you know what? These songs are thematic. They have a theme to them, you know, and
Yeah.
they're all connected. So,
Yes.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The first episode of Attack of the Killer B-Sides. Please put down in the comments below your opinion of this B-side, the B-side of this album. And if it isn't a killer B-side to you, taking a look at the song listing, the track listing, what would make it a killer B-side? You know?
Yeah.
And a little footnote. Songs like Heaven and Hell, the studio version, are included on the mammoth 10 CD set of Who's Next and Lifehouse. Also included on that is a 13-minute plus version of Bubba O'Reilly. Maybe that's
Yep.
your forte, maybe it's not. But you know what? There's a lot there to choose for everyone to have a good a good a good dive into the making of the origins of what Lifehouse was.
Yep.
Included on that set too is a hardcover graphic novel on the story of Lifehouse. So again, make the purchase, but you know what? It is expensive, but it is worth it. So again, I want to thank Ken Cheshire for coming along with me on this uh, first episode of Attack of the Killer B-Sides. And I will be back with more episodes of Attack of the Killer B-Sides as you know, as quickly as I can put them together. For Ken Cheshire, I'm Armando Venditti signing off. Please again click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content we've got coming up. And look after yourselves, please, and one another. And we'll see you soon with more episodes. Bye for now.